I'm happy to announce we have officially entered the summer blockbuster season with the Ukraine cinematic universe. We have new movies, we have re releases, we have director's cuts, we have remasters, we have behind the scenes interviews that reveal stuff about possible sequels. This whole thing just keeps getting crazier and crazier and bigger and bigger. And each and every day, it becomes more and more like a big Hollywood movie. So, just a general update on the big film, the film that's going to be bigger than Avengers Endgame. It's kind of like the center movie of the Ukraine cinematic universe. The Spring Offensive film has been delayed again. We're not sure when it's actually going to be released. We're going to rename it the Spring Summer Offensive. It's kind of like when they released the trailer for Sekiro and it said Shadows Die Twice. And they're look, like Spring Offensive is pretty good. Let's call it the Spring Summer Offensive. It's going to happen at some point. We have the funders of the movie who are keep telling Zelensky, look, you got to release the movie. We've given you like hundreds of billions of dollars. We've given you all these weapons. We gave you everything you wanted. And you're saying you can't release the film. Like, the longer you sit on it, the more money that is taken away by cheap Russian knockoffs. And Zelensky's like, no, we can't launch the offensive yet. If we launched the offensive, we would win. The Russians would completely collapse. We'd retake Crimea. The war would be over. But we can't do that just yet. We're going to have to delay it. We're going to have to rename it the spring, summer, possibly fall, winter offensive. But it's going to come out. It's in development hell, guys, but it's coming out. So that's just an update on the big film. We've had a couple false starts. There's been some leaks on the internet. They turned out to basically be nothing. Now, before we get into the Ukraine Cinematic Universe stories, there's something I wanted to cover from the Russian Cinematic Universe. So, Russia hit a massive supply depot, which caused a gigantic mushroom cloud explosion. And a lot of people misinterpreted this truly epic display of cinematic pyrotechnics as being a nuclear explosion. I'm not sure if you're aware, but at the end of filming Apocalypse Now, Francis Ford Coppola was told that he had to destroy the sets by the Filipino government. So he blew them up, put weird filters on it, and put it at the end of the movie. However, people thought it was the airstrike, so they removed it from the end of the movie. The point is, people thought this was a nuclear explosion. And they thought it was a nuclear explosion because there was a mushroom cloud, because no other type of explosion produces a mushroom cloud. Nothing. And I'm pretty sure there's a mushroom cloud from the Halifax disaster, but that's neither here nor there. And they're like, look, bombs hit depleted uranium and it caused a nuclear explosion. That's how depleted uranium works. That's how nuclear weapons work. You just take some uranium, you fire a missile at it, and you get a massive explosion. That's why Iran's had so much trouble developing nuclear weapons. So that immediately people were like, dude, this definitely was not a nuclear explosion. So we moved the goalposts. We're like, well, there's been this massive burst of gamma radiation. And then even like a lot of the pro-Russian people were like, okay, there wasn't actually, there was like a spike a couple days beforehand and it was within normal variance. And there's no actual evidence that there's any kind of radiation. And this is from Sputnik, but I saw this on a bunch of other pro-Russian channels. They were like, look, it's a disaster movie. It's 2012 over again. It's 2022. We've got nuclear fallout that's going to destroy Europe. And then it turned out that, no, it really wasn't. And it also turns out, and I've done some research into this, I've talked to some people who work in the military, and they're just like, no, depleted uranium is not particularly radioactive. It is a heavy mineral, heavy metal, like lead or mercury or any of that kind of stuff. So it's incredibly toxic. And if it did get blown up, fragments from it might pollute the soil and cause a rise in cancer. But no, it's not causing a radioactive cloud that's going to destroy Europe. So we had a cheap Russian knockoff. The Russians were like, look, we want to get in on this movie business, but it just wasn't as good. It was just a copy. So then, let's start off with the movie missiles of sorry, Metal Gear Solid 6 missiles of the Patriots, or Patriot missile. See, a lot of people were like, okay, Phantom Pain was good, but we want to see more like what happens after Guns of the Patriots. And Kojima was like, okay, we'll make a new movie and we'll call it Missiles of the Patriots, or Patriot Missile. And so they got sent to Ukraine, and like part of the Metal Gear Solid game was going to take place in Ukraine. And as part of the Metal Gear Solid game, you're going to have to, that boss fight with the Hind D, you're going to have to launch Patriot missiles at Russian missiles. And the thing is, the interesting thing about this is the background researchers were like, look, there's just, like, we have to keep this somewhat realistic despite it being a Metal Gear Solid game. And there really isn't enough Patriot missiles that are made in a year to be able to do that. So the total number of Patriot missiles that are produced in a year, and this is according to Lockheed Martin, the far-right Russian propaganda source, is approximately 500 to 550, and that is for everybody. That is for the U.S., for Saudi Arabia, for America's various allies. So I don't know what proportion of those would go to the Ukraine. Like, if that would be, I don't know, like... But I don't know. So they sent the Patriot missiles to them. This was going to be the turning ground. Solid Snake was going to come in. He was going to fire the Patriot missiles. It was going to be a win. There was kind of a disaster where the Patriot system fired 32 missiles against one Russian missile, and then the missile hit the Patriot system and probably blew it up. Keep in mind, if that's 32, that's what, like 7 or 8% of the total production for the year. They used in about 2 minutes. So they used $100 million worth of missiles to stop I don't know if it's a Russian cruise missile or a Russian glide bomb, but that probably burned through a substantial amount of their inventory. I'd imagine a lot of missiles also probably got blown up in this. By the way, speaking of that, we have an article that has not aged well from Foreign Policy. Patriot missiles are made in America and fail everywhere. I'm pretty sure if you look at Foreign Policy now, they're saying the Patriot missiles are the wonder weapon. They're like the HIMARS and the Javelins. And does anyone remember the Javelins? Does anyone remember when they were saying Russia lost 1,000 tanks in the first week of the war? I guess they just ran out, or they forgot about that. So if we go down and we look at what they claim so it's really funny because the joke I have whenever it comes to the missiles, and this is just kind of a problem where the game, because of COVID, the game developers are not able to properly coordinate with one another. So somebody's writing part of the script and the other person's not, and there's kind of some things. So the joke that I come up with to kind of refer to that is Russia fired 30 missiles, Ukraine shot 40 of them down for an intercept rate of 80%. And 10 of them hit targets and terror bombed Ukraine. Once you start trying to add it up, there's I forget, there's a case a couple weeks back where Russia launched 30 missiles. Ukraine said they shot down 28 of them. And then I think 4 or 5 different power grids got hit. So it's somehow worked that way. The U.S. initially claimed the Patriot had near perfect performance, intercepting 45 of 47 Scud missiles. Later, they revised it down to 50%, and then maybe 25%. So, I mean, what's the difference between 95% and 25%? There's no difference. It's the same. I mean, it's the wonder weapon. The Patriot missiles have turned this war around. Russia can't use anything anymore. They can't use their aircraft. They can't use missiles. I'm sure that whatever the Russians are using is a lot less sophisticated than Scuds. I do realize that there have been major advancements in video game technology since then. a animated missile on an NES is not the same as an animated missile on a PS5 or whatever Missiles of the Patriots is going to come out on. But only the Patriot missiles have had development. There's been no development in counter missile systems since then. Improved guidance system for missiles, making it harder to shoot them down. Stealth, none of that stuff has happened. It's now it's back to how it was before they revised it down. And speaking of that, we have once again, when Milley came out and said a couple months back, Russia's lost the war, it's over, everybody can go home. Some people were skeptical about that, and they're like, Milley, maybe you shouldn't be saying that, because if you say that so definitively and the war's not over, it makes you look like a jackass and you lose all credibility. But that was kind of like a teaser trailer. Like sometimes they will put out teaser trailers and the teaser trailer doesn't like go with the final one. So they were teasing, it's kind of like John Wick or a Marvel movie or something, where they say it's going to be the last one in the series, but it's not the one in the last series. When Milley said Russia's lost the war, he meant Russia's lost the Ukraine Cinematic Universe Phase 3, and we're going to move into Phase 4 now, which Russia's also going to lose. But once again, we have a claim from the government of the Ukraine that we're going to win this war. All we need is F-16s. So this is from May 20th, and the spokesperson from Command of the Ukrainian Air Force has stated, with the arrival of F-16 jets, it will win the war. Look, guys, it'll win the war. I'll tell you more. When we have F-16s, we will win this war. If these aircraft come to Ukraine, it's going to be over. And this is, sorry, just to break character for a second. This is something I hate about all of these F slurs. It's none of them are going to be held accountable for any of this. Like, it's like he knows it's not true. Okay, so even if he does believe that, even if Milley believed that Russia lost when he said it, even if he believed that momentum was somewhat in the Taliban's favor and all that other stuff, shouldn't like being that wrong consistently make nobody trust you? Like, how many times during this war has it been declared that Russia lost? And I mean, if you're going to say stuff like that, I think you should be held accountable to that. So if Ukraine gets the F-16s and they don't immediately like win the war, then yeah. So let's move on to Wagner. So there's been a lot of debate recently over who's going to succeed James Bond. Is it going to be Robert Pattinson? Is it going to be Henry Cavill? Who's going to do it? And they haven't decided on that, but they've announced that they're going to take the Bond movie Spectre and they're going to do a remake and call it Wagner. And it's going to be called Wagner. And they're returning the franchise back to its Cold War roots. And we're going to have Russian villains again instead of villains with no particular political motivation. We're going to have that. Putin's going to be the new Blofeld. He has his dog. So they're innovating a little. He doesn't have the Persian cat. He has his like chocolate lab now. And we have our villain for the first of the new James Bond movies. We have Yevgeny, or however you pronounce his name, Prigozhin, who is the head of the Wagner organization. He is the supervillain for Wagner for the first of the James Bond reboots. He's the head of the Wagner organization, although technically he is not the military head of the Wagner organization. He's just their spokesperson. Now, what I find interesting is he had this like whole thing with Putin. They were kind of like doing a comedy routine. They were trying to stir up some drama for the release of Wagner. And he claimed all this stuff. He's like, look, we've lost 20,000 people. We have no shells. The Russian army's running away. And for some reason, the Western media believed everything that Prigozhin said. I don't know why that He's the only person that they believe. They believe him. They don't believe anybody else. So that is where we're at the moment. He is 100% reliable because he said that Russia's having trouble. Although when he said that Russia captured Bakhmut, it didn't. So the Wagner group is going to be the villains in the new James Bond movie. Now we have some interesting numbers. So this is the big thing, the casualty numbers that have been very heavily debated. I've seen stuff saying that Ukraine's lost, like, that it's 5-1. That 5 Russians have died from every Ukrainian. That's because solid snakes come in as like a side mission as part of missiles of the Patriots. You have the Azov battalion, who we're going to cover in a minute, who are basically a Sabaton song brought to life. And Ukraine is somehow getting a 5-1 kill ratio despite being qualitatively and quantitatively inferior. Breaking character for a moment, I have no idea what the casualty ratio is in Bakhmut. If I had to just completely guess, I would say it's probably about 2 Russians for every 3 Ukrainians, because Russia has an overwhelming advantage in numbers and firepower. But urban warfare is very hard, especially when you're attacking, especially when your opponents have commie blocks to barricade themselves into. So I don't think I think in maybe other theaters, it's probably like 3 or 4-1 in Russia's favor. But here I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't closer. So this article is from May 5th. So according to this article, let me just find it. Where is it? 50. Don't worry, I'm a professional. Why is it's okay? It wasn't coming up for some reason. Okay, so according to this article from May 5th, Wagner's total military force is around 50,000 people. Now, this is clearly something that they took from a previous year, and they did not adjust it at all. They even say here that Wagner lost 10,000 people, but they didn't revise their estimate. But according to the estimate that they're using in their article from May, Wagner has 50,000 people. Now, if we look at reports from, let me see, where is it? The Kiev Independent, they claim that the Wagner group has lost something like 80%. So if Wagner lost 80% and it has 50,000 people left, or we'll even say that they were just too lazy to do the math and say it has 40,000. So let's just do the math here. So that would be 40,000 times 8. So Wagner, according to these two articles, has an approximate maximum manpower of about 320,000, which is, I think, bigger than the entire Ukrainian army. So Wagner alone has several 100,000 troops at its disposal, according to these articles. And you might say, well, Argent, you're just being dismissively reading this. And I'm like, no, but I'm taking these. But the thing is, when we're dealing with the Ukraine cinematic universe, we have to believe PBS. We have to believe the Kiev Independent. We have to not believe Russian disinformation. You see, the Russian bots go on to Metacritic and they pan the movies and they say the movies suck and they say the movies don't deliver any of the stuff that they're supposed to, and that the movies look like they were shot on a shoestring budget, and that all the money that was used to build the movies was embezzled. But I believe that the person who wrote this article did their due diligence. They checked the facts. And I believe in ethics in journalism, that journalists are never lazy. They never do stuff like say 20,000 killed when they mean 20,000 casualties. And they never get, like, say it's just in Bakhmut or it's the entire line or it's like the whole war. They get these details right. So I'm going to take them at face value. So Bond is going to come in and he's going to take down Wagner by himself. Be Wagner like 10,000, 40,000, 50,000, 320,000 guys. Bond is going to take them down by himself. He's going to like beat them with javelins. He's going to fire like one HIMAR. It's going to hit a Russian ammo dump. It's going to explode a depleted uranium thing, and then the fireball. And like, you guys thought that this was just something like rent. This was pyrotechnics. They're testing out the pyrotechnics for the new James Bond film Wagner, where they're going to use this to kill all 320,000 Wagnerians at once. I mean, it's a good name for that, and Prigozhin definitely looks like a Bond villain. He's like one of the most Bond villainish people I've ever seen in my life. Okay, so let's move on from Wagner. So there's the whole issue of whether or not Bakhmut was actually captured. Zelensky said that it was captured. He said when he was asked by a reporter, he said there's nothing left. Bakhmut is only in our hearts now. It's gone. So basically he said it's over. There's not a single person left. And then later he's like, look, when I said that we lost Bakhmut, I didn't mean we actually lost Bakhmut. I meant that we retook Bakhmut. We're winning. The Russians are getting driven out. Like, I said that as I'm sitting here with my sweater. And that was, so it's Russian disinfo, guys. So like, if we look at some of this, Russia was getting pushed back in Bakhmut like 4 days ago. The Ukrainians are beating it. It's not over. Vladimir Zelensky said Bakhmut is not occupied by the Russian Federation as of today, and they're quickly retaking it. I know that Prigozhin said they took it, and we've been quoting his casualty numbers as if they were real, but yeah. The enemy continues. Fighting for Bakhmut continues. Ukraine says it has taken territory near the embattled city. Recaptured more, they're recapturing it. Now, if you actually read through these articles, it says that what they actually took was like empty space or forest on the outskirts that is basically indefensible. And the Russians were like, why would we defend unfortified, open ground? We'll just let the Ukrainians take it, then we'll just fire artillery shells at them. But that's not the case. And I'm going to throw in a little bonus feature here. Because you know how sometimes when you're releasing, like, a movie, and you want to put out some promotional material, if it's like Harry Potter's glasses, but it's 3D glasses or posters or something like that. Zelensky has unveiled and presented to the Pope. The Vatican is a big backer of the Ukrainian cinematic universe. He's presented him with a little promotional piece. So this is one of the things that I actually thought that they were teasing this as a comedy, that you're going to have like a buddy cop film with Pope Francis and Zelensky, and they were going to like drive around the Ukrainian countryside and get drunk and stuff like that. But no, it's not actually a comedy. It's a serious drama. So Zelensky gave this to Pope Francis. It is a blacked out Jesus. I guess this is a Disney movie. You know, I just realized it now. They made Jesus black. This is indeed a Disney film. You got the Little Mermaid, you got all the characters that they made black. This is indeed a Disney movie in the Ukraine cinematic universe. And Zelensky's like, look, I'm Jewish, but this icon is completely legitimate. It's to resemble all the missing children in Ukraine. It's not blasphemous. It's cool. It was also made on a piece of a bulletproof vest from a Ukrainian soldier. So I mean, that's great. And Zelensky he didn't get the memo that's not going to be a buddy cop film, because he like showed up to meet the Pope in like his military fatigues and his sweater. So, I mean, that's cool. Couldn't even put on a tie to meet the Pope. So that shows the level of respect. Okay, so moving on, we have that. Next up, um, we have the Sabaton song. Sabaton has put out not just a song, but like a feature length music video called Azov Battalion. It's kind of a remake of Panzer Battalion, but with even more Nazis than the original one. We oh. So as we look at the this article from a month back, we can see that the New York Times is praising the Azov Battalion, reconstituted Azov Battalion. They're showing some pictures of it being trained. I believe that these are as NATO equipment, even though Ukraine said we're not going to give neo-Nazis equipment. We have the symbols there. Got Azov Battalion. So they're playing it up. Azov Battalion is awesome. Okay. So Azov Battalion has decided that they're in they're a bonus track for Sabaton's album The Last Stand. They're a feature-length bonus track. So they decided that they were going to invade Russia. Now, there's been some speculation from the Pentagon leaks that Zelensky is actually going to be the supervillain of the next film in the Ukraine cinematic universe. And Zelensky's going to invade Russia. He's going to take some Russian border towns and he's going to hold them hostage and threaten to destroy them. So the claim is that, let's see here, Azov. No, okay. So the initial claim was that it was totally not Ukraine guys. It was anti-Russian partisans. I didn't even know that there was anti-Russian partisans. But we have like the two most legitimately named groups ever: the Russian Volunteer Corps and the Freedom of Russia Legion. They claimed responsibility for it. These were not Ukrainian army soldiers. These were not members of the Azov Battalion. These were like I don't know. It's an armed guerrilla movement. They're still sticking to this claim. Russia took this picture from Belgrade, promotional image of U.S. things with Ukrainian markings on them. The claim is that this is staged. It to be serious, it very well could be staged. But I mean, like, how many times in this war has Ukraine and the U.S. staged stuff? Like, every time they claimed to shoot down the missiles that clearly weren't shot down, they were staging it. I heard the original cope was that this was a fuzzy picture and you can't make out anything. It was staged. Taken from a low loader and put it into the place. Were not there earlier in the week. The vehicles contain Ukrainian markings, but it's yeah. So U.S. investigates claim American gear used in raids on Russia. We're looking into these reports that U.S. equipment could have been involved. We've been very clear we don't support the use of U.S.-made equipment for attacks inside Russia. We're going to take another look at that in a minute. We've been nothing but consistent about this. So I don't know if it's true or not. In terms of veracity of this imagery, there's alleged explosions. I don't even remember that. Ukraine denied involvement. Let me see here. The claim is every bullet is tracked not only by us but by our Western allies. I am going to press a massive X to doubt that that's true. I'm sure a lot of that has disappeared into. I mean, a lot of shit in any war, regardless of it, goes missing from like combat. Like, soldiers drop stuff gets blown up. You don't know how much gets blown up. There's chaos. And we're supposed to believe that there was no military corruption in Ukraine. No one sold any of this shit on the black market. Every single bullet. So let's see. So the claim is that it was Azov Battalion and it was other nationalist groups from the Ukraine who wound up doing this. It was the last stand. They invaded Russia. They faced off against superior Russian military. Now, Vice, which is a known pro-Russia, is a known pro-Russian media source, said that in the aftermath of this, you had massive protests, massive celebration by the Ukrainians, in particular by members of Azov. That's cool. We have, let's see here. Okay, so I'm just trying to find it. One of the members. This is not. This is RDK. I think that's right sector. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it's. They broke the border. They broke the border. They were celebrating, kind of like the dancing Israelis were celebrating. I don't know. Was it? Was it Azov? It could have been. Was there Was there anti-Russian partisan groups that somehow were operating in a specific spot along the Ukrainian border and attacked the city, and Russia just completely and totally made this whole thing up? Even though, like, I don't think anyone doubts that this attack happened, but Ukraine was not involved with it, guys. Ukraine would never carry out an attack inside Russia. The U.S. has assured us of this. They've never carried out an attack inside of Russia. That's the U.S.'s official policy. With the exception of yet another pro-Russian source, the New York Times. So, according to the New York Times, so there was a drone attack on the Kremlin, on, I believe it was Putin's office, or an area where he often is. Putin wasn't even there at the moment. The whole thing was incompetently done. I personally actually thought it was a false flag. Sorry if I'm kind of breaking character. This video's gone for a long time. So, the New York Times is running an article saying this. U.S. officials said the drone attack on the Kremlin earlier this month was likely orchestrated by one of Ukraine's special military or intelligence units. So it's unknown whether or not Zelensky or other top officials were aware of the operation. Some people Zelensky wasn't. Why would Zelensky be involved in this? So, U.S. officials say the level of confidence that the Ukrainian government directly authorized the Kremlin drone attack is low. And by low, we mean we don't know who did it. We're pretty sure that they did it. So, once again, Ukraine would never carry out an attack inside of Russia, despite the U.S. telling them not to. I think this proves once and for all that the Belgrade thing is crazy. It's not the case. And to finish this off, we have another yet another re-release of the whole. Okay, it looks like it's blocking me because democracy dies in darkness, and we have to put literally everything behind a paywall, so nobody can see anything. So this is from the Times. So we've been through so many different narratives on the whole Nord Stream thing. I mean, some people said Russia did it, then it was pro-Russian militants, then it was pro-Ukrainian militants, then it was 5 dudes and like 1 woman in a boat. It was Gilligan's Island. That the professor like made up some bombs. They somehow were able to dive to the bottom and blow it up. They blew up Nord Stream despite it, from my understanding, being physically impossible for them to have planted a bomb that deep with civilian stuff. The German investigation, I believe in this article, but I can't read it, says that they likely had the backing of a state. They suggest either Poland or Ukraine or both. So the German government's like, yeah, Ukraine probably blew up the pipeline. Now, I'm going to ask the question, doesn't this make Ukraine a state sponsor of terrorism? I mean, this is a terrorist attack, isn't it? And if Ukraine was behind it, then they sponsored a terrorist attack on Germany. They committed state terrorism on German property. Um, the people who are giving them like billions of dollars worth of weapons. But the Germans, being the weak pussies that they are probably going to be okay with this and be like, it's all right. They blew up our pipeline. They lied about it, but they're the bad guys here. Russia's evil. We're going to do that. So, is Ukraine going to be added to the state-sponsored terrorism list, despite them assassinating Russian journalists, despite them attacking the Kremlin, despite this? No, of course not. Russia is a state-sponsored terrorism because Wagner exists. These guys aren't. So that is the latest in the twists and turns of the Nord Stream saga, which is a reboot of Gilligan's Island. So that covers, I think, most of the major updates in the Ukraine cinematic universe. The whole thing continues to be completely surreal and bizarre.